Hello dear students, welcome to the lecture 3 of responsive web design with ASP.NET 5 and MVC pattern and Bootstrap 5. So if you remember that we have left with actions of controllers in the previous lecture. Also, I have noticed that there was a noise caused by the vibration of my microphone in the previous lecture. Hopefully it will be fixed in this lecture. I am sorry about that. So I will start with copying our previous lecture source code, and I will continue from on that source code. Okay. Because I believe it is being more effective in this way. So there were HTTP GET, HTTP POST. We were able to define which method can access which method. Also, we could use same method name with different access methodologies, such as HTTP GET and UC edit and HTTP POST edit, but they are doing different things. It is like method overloading. Okay, so let's start with renaming our solution and project. Okay. Okay, and let's run our application and continue with the next tutorial. All right, action results.
In the previous article, we discussed actions, which are the methods defined on a controller. Actions are invoked when a requested URL is matched to an action on a controller. This is done by the routing system. When the action method finishes its work, it will usually return something to the client, and that something will usually be implementing the iActionResult interface, or task less than iActionResult greater than if the method is asynchronous.
Okay, so okay, I think this is pretty clear.
As soon as your controller inherits the built-in base controller class, Microsoft ASP.NET Core MVC controller, we are supplied with a wide range of helper methods for generating the response, the action result. An example of such a method has already been used in this tutorial, the view method. It will take the matching view file and turn it into an instance of the view result class, which implements the iActionResult interface. After that, ASP.NET MVC will automatically transform it into a response to the browser, in this case in the form of an OK status code and then a body of HTML. A view is far from the only possible result of a controller action, though. Since the result will eventually be returned to a browser, the available methods should cover all possible outcomes of a HTTP request, so a controller action can of course also result in a redirect, a 404, page not found, or any of the other HTTP status codes. Here's an incomplete list of the most interesting and useful methods for generating an action result.
Okay, so there are several action results, and let's test each of them to have a better idea. And what I'm going to do is I will add some new index pages to test them. For example, let's say content. Okay. So I will be using same home controller, but I will return different views. Okay. So let's add a view, name it as, okay, razor view and razor empty view. I think I will pick razor with, let's add razor view and see the difference. Okay, and the name will be content view. By the way, content actually returns a text, so we don't need a view for that. So I will name this as a generic example returns. Okay. And you see there is some template models: create, delete, details, edit, empty list. I will make it empty model. Okay, so first start with content example. And by the way, we are waiting Visual Studio to add Vue to our application. It is really taking a lot of time. And so, oh, we have an error. This is interesting. Let's add empty view. And I will name it as example. Okay, examples. You see it is razor view empty, edit. Meanwhile, oh, it's added immediately. Okay, it's fine. So, in the home controller, what I am going to do is write different methods. So, let's write a method for example of content. Okay, content example. In this case, it will return a content. So we already had that, but I will leave it like this, and with text equal to, okay, something like this. So how we will be able to access it? We didn't define any access methods. So let's try it. It will open index CHHTML by default. Okay, so home and content example. You see it is working, and then I will provide some text such as, yes, you see when I provide a variable name as SR text with the get method, it is working. Can I do this with a post method as well? So let's try it too. And I think we had some post method example, but I can't see it. Why? Okay, so it was in lecture 1 maybe. Okay, it is not here, so here. Okay, so begin form, we don't have it. Oh, we have the example. Okay, here. And so let's make another example. So this time we will be accessing the method of content example. Here it will be in the home controller, and method will be post, and value will be test of content example. You see the hidden value name is sr name, and okay, let's restart. So you see we are this is the format of defining a mixed or razor syntax having a post in ASP.NET MVC. However, we could do this with I believe raw HTML as well. I will do that too. So let's first see that. Okay, it is working, and I will write the same with HTML form. Okay, I think there is okay, if I remember correctly, let me check. I can't remember because it was a long time since I have written. I think we have to have somewhere the URL. Oh, here. Okay. Okay, so the action will be in index, then I think it will be first home, then index, then content example. We don't have a PHP or such. Yeah. And yeah, then we will have an input with name. So the name will be this. We don't need ID. We can remove it. The type will be text. The value will be let's say test of with HTML form. Okay. Then we will have a submit button, and submit type submit value will be okay. So you see we can define either with razor syntax or with regular HTML. Both should work, and let's try this version as well. Oh, we have an extra thing here, but it wasn't necessary, but whatever, we can remove it later. Okay, we can test our URL is correct or not with home index. Yeah, it's correct. So this is equal to this because of the routing. And here, okay, submit form with classical HTML. This is, and oh, it didn't work, obviously. Because why? Home index content example. Okay, why? Because we didn't define the form type, perhaps, but interesting. Form action, maybe we need to define the method as post. Okay, let's retry. But this also gave me some an idea to test something as well, whether it is true or not. I will show you that as well. Okay, so let's retry. Home index content example. What is the difference? Let's check the source code. Okay, home content example and home index content. Okay, so you see the URL we have provided was incorrect. I will remove it. Okay, test of content with HTML form, post method. Okay. Then I will have get method as well. So we can see the difference. Okay. Let's rerun. We have fixed the URL. Okay. It looks like our sort automatic formatting had added some unnecessary lines, so I will just fix them. Okay. All right, open it. So let's try submit. Okay, so this value is also being displayed. This is wrong, and we can fix that. You see, this is input type text. However, we want this to be input type hidden, not text. We don't want it to be visible. And let's add here some HR, also maybe some formatting such as div style and center. Yeah. Take them inside here. We can also add some padding perhaps. Okay, let's retry. The type of the input does matter, which type of input you are sending. When you make it hidden, it won't be visible in the browser. However, of course, from source code you can see. So this is the submit form. Okay, so this is the result we are getting in home content example page. As you can see, product updated with text equal to test of content example with HTML form post method. And then we do the other one. You see now it is visible in the URL because it is done with the get method. However, we get the same result because our method supports both. However, if I make it only for post, let's see what happens now. Okay, post method still works, and when we try to get, you see the page isn't working. HTTP error 405, and let's see. You see it is not allowed method because we didn't allow this method to accept get, therefore it has thrown an error. Okay, so we have seen the content nav view. We already know the view. It is returning view with the name we want, and there is also partial view. We will see that, and file. So let's try also file return, and how we gonna do that. Okay, and let's see. Okay, path to file. Hmm. Okay, it doesn't look easy. And so I'm just checking easiest way. So there is full path. Yeah, this may work. So let's test this. Okay, and by action results, file, example, and we will return a classic file. So to do that, let's download an image from our university and add it to our files folder. Add new folder, files. Okay, and from here let's download this image. Okay, so logistic banner, let's name it as banner, into the desktop. Then append, add a new file from here, existing item. Okay, from desktop, banner JPEG. Okay, so how we can get the path of this file when we get it like this? Oh, not this way. Okay. Okay, one moment. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so maybe this would work. Let's test it. So system map hosting map path. Okay, this is not the way it is probably. Hosting internal map path. No, this is not the way. This is interesting example. Hmm. Okay, let's test this. Hmm. Let me see controller get file. Okay, let's try this way. Interestingly, this is not working in our case. Why? Because there is no path. We can add that, but there is no server either. It requires to add a package. Let's add it and try. So it looks like we have to install a package to access server files, I believe. Okay, it is added, but still there is no map path. Okay, this looks like working. So Okay, there is return file and we need full path, but so the path will be like this, and the file name will be banner gpeg, and okay, so there is application file type. We need file type, maybe not. Let's try string content type. Okay, so this is the content type, and we have the full path already. Okay, virtual path and content type. Okay, let's try, and if it is working, let's see that. So this is our method. So here you see, when you are doing a programming, sometimes you will be needed to, or many times, solve your problems, and to do that you have to search the internet and find the correct thing that will achieve the task that you want to do, and you may need to do some search for that. Okay, home file example. Oh, no provider has been configured to process the supplied file. Okay, so it looks like it is working, but we have some problem. Oh, there is return physical file. So let's try this, and I wonder if that exists. Yeah, it is existing. Okay. Okay. Oh, it says that it cannot find. Oh, so it appears that we have a problem with our path. And why? So when we open, it is here, and it is checking whether it is here or not. So when we open this folder, what do we see? Okay, we see that here in the debug folder. So this file is apparently not exist in our debug folder. To make it exist, can we do anything? Okay, there is build action, and maybe we need to edit as content, so it will be publish it. Okay, control file expecting virtual path. So to get the virtual path, okay, I am assuming that you are holding your uh, file in a, let's say, static folder. Therefore, you have the address of it, and so I will just provide a full path for it. However, you could also provide a path that will work on other places. Or let's just copy this into our debug folder with content and copy if needed. I think it should work now because it will get copied into our debug folder right now. And if you are publishing your project on a server, then you can refer to its put folder. Let's say you are putting it inside CWW root or whatever, or application root directory, wherever you are publishing, and it would work. However, since we are working locally, we have to do another approach. Okay, home. Oh, it didn't copy it here. Yeah, it didn't copy, so to make it copy here, I think we need to change this into, oh, maybe it is copied under files. Yeah, here. Yeah. And it will be like this. Okay, now it should work. Because all files are copied with their parent directory. And you see in the debug, now I have files folder. Okay, home. Okay, now it is working. It is returning a file. And let's see what kind of network result we are getting. Okay, it is returning a type of document as a file. Okay, so this is the return of this page. All right, it is working. Now let's move to the next one, which is Json. So returns a Json response to the client. So by the way, we have returned a physical file, and to return a real file, we needed something else. So this wasn't as the example, but you can return also JSON or redirects. Let's make a redirect. I don't think so. JSON will be different. So redirect example, and with this redirect, I will redirect to example CSHTML. So let's just type something here. Okay, and I think it should be redirect. And it is expecting a URL, so the URL will be, I think, home and examples. Oh, not that way. I think we can tell examples like this. Let's look at it. Oh, we just return another view. Nice. So it is just this much easy, and the view name will be examples. Okay. So let's try that. So this is the redirect example. And there's also redirect permanent, which means that your browser will cage it and automatically redirect. Okay, so let's open our console network. Okay, so the redirect example failed because we have to give full path. Okay, now it works. So you see now it shows what happened. However, since we didn't preserve log, we have failed. Okay, now we can see. Okay, so what is the response here? Okay, response is this one, I think. Yeah, it is just a redirect. Okay, anyway, it is working and there is status code. So returns a custom status code to the client. So let's try status code as well. Return, okay, status code. And inside integer status code. Okay, let's return 5. Okay, so let's try the status code example. With Firefox, we are able to see the better what happened. So I think I will use it. Okay, so let's open it with Firefox. Okay, and inspect element here, network, and reload. Okay, now we can see. And what I'm going to do is let's first try redirect example. Okay, now it shows status code 200. I think I have to persist logs. Okay, does it show the redirect? Headers version. It doesn't show the redirect on here. However, it just returns to new view. So this is not example. So yes, this is not redirect we want. Yeah, this is incorrect. This is just returning view. So I think I will return view. So examples. So this is under home. Therefore, home examples here. And here I will just make it as root URL. Now it should work. You see, because the examples is under home and it is under views, therefore it should be automatically handled, I believe. Okay, and when I refresh, okay, so home examples is incorrect. Why? Let's try like this. It's also incorrect. Views, home examples. Okay, so maybe like this. So by default, it is displaying the view of index. However, examples is not displayed. Probably it is related to routing. So we need to add a route to see example CSHTML path and define view path. Okay, we will see that, so I will just leave it for now, and when we see routing we will do it. And so we were going to test status code, so let's test status code. Okay, and let's just rerun the application. And to see the status code, okay, so the status code is provided, I believe. Okay, you see it, the status code is 505 is returned. Okay, and okay, let's continue.
There are many more, and you are of course free to implement your own or generate the result yourself. Most of these methods simply generates the relevant class with properties set accordingly. For instance, the content method simply generates an instance of the content result class and fills the content property with the value you pass into the method. Since there are many types of responses which implements the iAction result interface, your actions can return any of them, based in the logic of your method. A common use case for this is to return either a view or a piece of content if the requested content is found, or a 404, page not found, error if it's not found. It could look like this.
So the not found would be a method. I don't know if it is a generic method or not, but you can also implement a method that returns a status code. Simply
In the first line, we try to load the requested product, using a to be implemented getProduct method. If the product is found, we return it inside of a view using the view method. If not, we return a 404 error using the not found helper method, which basically just creates an instance of the not found result class. So in this case, there are two possible outcomes of the action, but there could be even more. If needed, you are free to return anything that implements the iAction result interface.
okay, so I will make an example of this and you will get the idea better. Okay, so there will be an action named as details, and simply we don't have products in our database right now. So what I'm going to do is, if id is equal to 32, let's say, I will return let's return a content. Okay, id 32 is found, and else it will return not found. So not found is a generic method from controller base. and this will support both HTTP GET and HTTP POST. Okay, so home details, and okay, so it is expecting an ID, and home details ID 32. Okay, you see it is displaying ID 32 is found. And if I make something like this, okay, it says cannot be found HTTP 404. Okay, so whatever we provide, if it is not 32, it will return 404 because we are returning 404. We can also return other status codes. It is up to us. So you can test it with debugging. When I refresh, it will come into this method call and it will return not found. Okay, it is that simple. Okay, summary.
An action is a method on a controller, usually accessible by a URL thanks to the routing system. An action will usually return an action result, based in the iActionResult interface. There are many helper methods available to aid you in generating the desired results for your action. These are the most important aspects to understand about an ASP.NET MVC controller. In the coming articles, we'll dig a bit deeper into some of the more advanced controller topics.
Okay, so next will be views. Okay, so okay, before going into views, I would like to test the image copy thing with publish. By the way, for using ASP.NET MVC in a remote server, for example, in a Windows server, you would need an IIS, and inside that IIS, the IIS will run your application. So for example, you can publish your application inside a folder and then upload it to remote server. So let's do a test here. So it will test here with 4 local folders. Okay. And then we can make some configuration. Oh, we don't need that. We don't need Azure right now. So delete existing files. Okay, so here the configuration release. By the way, if you make release, it will be different. It will be optimized target framework, and it can be framework dependent. If you make it framework dependent, it will not add all the libraries into the publish. So it will reduce your size and target runtime. Portable, I think we can make it Win64. We can make produce single file on multiple. Enable ready to run compilation, delete all existing files and no database, and okay. So just save it. This configuration may be changed according to your requirements. What I want to test is, I wonder will it publish this banner JPEG into the publish folder. I think it should, but we will see. So inside the test folder, we will see the published files. Okay, it is boiling right now. So for example, I would have an IIS on my Windows server and I will just copy paste the files here and it will start working on my remote server. And I could access it with like www.myserver.com. Okay. It is taking a lot of time on my computer. My computer is pretty weak actually, unfortunately. So the duration it is going to take is totally dependent on your computer specification speed. Okay, meanwhile we can continue. So introduction to views. We already have an idea about them, but now we will see in more details, more in depth.
In the beginning of this tutorial, we briefly talked about views in the MVC pattern, and we even added one to our project, to see what it looks like and what it does, to get you quickly up and running. In this chapter, we'll go more in depth with the topic of views, starting in this article, where we'll go over the core concepts of a view. What is a view? While the controller handles the connection between the backend and the front end, the view is the visual result of a controller action. So, whenever you want to present the user with something visual, and that's usually what you want when developing a web application, it's placed in a view. A view contains markup, HTML, and Razor code and will often be a visual representation of your model. In other words, the controller generates a model object and then passes it to the view, which then uses the model to visually represent the content of the model to the user.
Okay, I think it's published. Okay, when I refresh, I see the published result. Okay, the file is also published, therefore it should work on a remote computer as well. You see how many DLLs it has published. These are the things that is taking time. So if we run it, let's see how much space it is taking. So it is about 20 megabytes. Okay.
This might all sound a bit abstract at this point, especially if you haven't seen it in action yet. In that case, I suggest you go back to the start of this tutorial, where we add a model, a view and a controller to a project, to see how they interact. A view is basically just an HTML file with added support for Razor code. It uses the CSHTML extension to indicate these extra possibilities, and as you can see in the chapter on Razor, found elsewhere in this tutorial, it's very easy to combine HTML and Razor code. Where are views placed? View files are usually placed in a folder called Views in the root of your MVC project. To make it easier for the .NET framework and your controllers to locate the proper view, you usually create a subfolder inside of your Views folder for each of your controllers, bearing the name of the controller. So, if you have a home controller and a product controller, your Views folder could have subfolders with the names Home and Product. Each of these folders would then have one or several views relating to the actions of your controllers. It could look something like this in the Solution Explorer.
Okay, so when we analyze this, you see there is controllers folder, and inside that there is home controller, product controller, and under views there is product, for example. This means that details, index, and list are being used for this product controller because they are under the same named folder.
When following these conventions, you allow the .NET framework to locate your views automatically, through a process called view discovery. We'll discuss that process in one of the next articles. A view is the visual representation of your model, delivered to the end user by your controller. It uses HTML in combination with Razor code to generate something the browser understands. In the next couple of articles, we'll dig deeper into some of the more advanced view topics.
Okay.
View discovery. Connecting controller and view. In the beginning of this tutorial, I demonstrated how a controller can return a view simply by calling the view method. This even works without parameters, so at that point, you might wonder how in the world a controller knows exactly which of your views to return for a specific action. The answer is something called view discovery, a process where ASP.NET MVC will try to guess which view to use, without forcing you to specify it. View discovery works when you follow a certain convention when creating your project structure. We have already talked about this previously in this tutorial, where we always put controllers in a folder called controllers, models in a folder called models, and so on. With views, you should place them inside a subfolder named after the controller, and the file name of the view should match the name of the action. So for instance, if you have a controller called product controller with an action called details, your folder structure should look like this. In other words, the location and naming of your views should follow this convention.
Okay, so there is it starts with a slash like this, so it means that it is under root, and then there is views, then the controller name like home, whatever, then the action name, and HTML. So probably the examples didn't work because we didn't specify the extension. So I will make another test in a minute. Okay, home, example, HTML. Oh, it didn't work again. I don't think so. It is name dependent, but yeah, it is not working. Let's continue. We will see it.
If it does, you can simply call the view method from your controller actions and have the .NET framework automatically locate the proper view for you. If the framework can't find a matching view using the convention mentioned above, it will look in one more place.
So it will look views shared action name HTML as the next.
The shared folder, which you may add inside your views folder, is usually used for layout files and partial views shared across multiple controllers. We'll discuss that later on, but for now, the easiest thing is to follow the folder structure convention outlined above.
Okay, I think I now understand our main problem, because by default it is looking our home controller, and here we have to return that view. Okay, so simply what we need to do is we will have a method, name it as examples, and it will return view examples. That's that, because the examples is located under views under home controller. So with default behavior, we are following the default convention of naming. This is how it works, simply. So now it will work. I am 100% sure about that. Okay, home, examples, and tada, it is working. Okay. All right, let's continue. Specifying alternatively, it would look views shared action name HTML if the framework can't find a matching view using the convention method mentioned above. Let's read it again.
The shared folder, which you may add inside your views folder, is usually used for layout files and partial views shared across multiple controllers. We'll discuss that later on, but for now, the easiest thing is to follow the folder structure convention outlined above.
Yeah, we are currently using that the file structure. We are putting controllers under controllers folder with having the first initial name like this, home controller, models like this, and views like views home and like this. Okay, specifying a view.
If you can't or won't follow the convention, you can help the framework locating the matching view by supplying a parameter to the view method. There are two ways. You can either specify just the name, which still requires you to follow the folder structure convention, but supply a view with another name. Think of it as an alias, like this.
Yeah, this is what we are doing. Or you can supply the entire path.
Or you can supply the entire path, which gives you complete flexibility when creating your project structure.
Okay, so let's try this way as well. Okay. So to test it, okay, entire path action, okay. So I will add another folder, like let's say unconventional, and inside that I will add a view. Okay, so add and new item, razor view empty, and I will name it as test cs html. And to access it, I will still be using home and home controller, because I won't be composing another controller for now. So test, it will be come with test. We have a test method now. So the test method will return full path. How? Like this, unconventional and test cs html, and let's write it here, test cs html. Okay, let's try it. Okay, then home and test. You see, it is working. So this is following different path. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, we are providing the full path. So the summary.
If you follow a specific convention when creating your project structure, View Discovery allows your controllers to automatically find a matching view based in the name of the controller and the action. If you don't follow this convention, you can easily return a specific view by passing its path and/or name to the view method.
Okay, so next. Okay.
Passing data into views. A view can exist without a model or any other data from the backend, but in most cases, you need to somehow access data made available by a controller in your view. Since your view shouldn't have to know about your controller, as per the rule of separation of concerns, your controller is responsible for making the data available to the view. There are two main ways of doing this. Either you define a strongly typed model and then pass it to the view, or you can use the ViewData, ViewBag containers to make data available to the view. Let's discuss these approaches now. Please notice that there will be a bit of overlap in the information provided by this article in the Quick Start article on adding a model to your project.
Okay, so
Using a view model. Since this technology is called MVC, short for Model View Controller, the use of a view model is definitely the cleanest and most common approach for passing data into a view. We'll talk more about the model later in this tutorial, but for now, just know that it's basically just an object, usually representing something from the real world. You'll also run into the concept of a view model again. We'll dig deeper into this later on, but to describe it shortly, a view model is just a model passed to a view. So it can be something that already exists in your project, like a user or product object, or a class you specifically define to represent the data you wish to access from your view. A model doesn't have to be a complex class though. It could, in theory, be something as simple as a string, an integer, or a datetime. In other words, anything found in the .NET framework can be used as a model, but in practice, your model will usually be a class consisting of at least a couple of properties. So for instance, a model used to represent a product could look like this.
okay. So to continue in this tutorial, I will add a new model. So do they give? Yeah, let's add a product model under the models. So it will be basically a class, and it will be, let's name it as product. Okay, and it's a, you see it is public class product, so other places we can access it. And basically let's just copy and paste it. And I will add another page to my controllers. Let's say add controller as product, empty controller. I will name it as product controller. You see, we add the controller word to the end of the name of the page, product controller. And inside product controller, I will add an action result. It is already there, but it will be like this. Okay, so it will use the product from product model. So to be able to use it, I will add using lecture 1 models here. So it will be all the models inside the models folder will be available like movie or product. So it will generate a product and it will return view with product. However, since we don't provide the view name, it will look for index view inside views. And to do that, I will add a new folder, name it as product. And inside this product, I will add index.cshtml because it is what it will look as default. And okay, now let's write as let's run and see whether it is working so far or not. Okay, so by default it is opening the home and the index. So therefore we will be needed to product and index or just product. Okay, let's see what's maybe the problem. Okay, we have product controller. Inside product controller we have details. So therefore I have to define details like this. And here it will tell me that details. Okay, I see. So I will change the name of this detail, or let's provide the view of the name as well. Like here, index. Okay. Since the action name is not matching the view name, I have to provide the view name as well. Okay. So I will take a note here as well. So the action name is details. View name is index. Okay. Okay, then product, then details, then I can provide ID. Okay, so inside the view we will use the model which is product, and so let's continue. We haven't added that yet.
Notice how I pass the product instance to the view when I call the view method. Inside the product details view, I can now define the product class as the model this view can, and should, expect, using the @model directive, located at the top of your view file.
Okay, let's go to our view file, which is here. This is under the views product index CSHTML, and at the top we will add model as equal to lecture. Okay, it is still seeing lecture 1 because we have just copy pasted models dot product. Now by default it will expect model as a model from models under product. I mean the product under models. It is here.
With that in place, you can now start using your view model and its properties in your view.
Yeah, we can start using that, such as, let's add a BR. Okay, H1 model title and model price. By the way, can I make this default opening page and right click? Maybe from the properties. Okay, there is startup object. No. Let's look for it. Okay. Okay, there's web tab, it says, but I don't see it here. There's properties, but no website. I mean the web tab. Project properties. Okay, there is roads, home. Okay, so probably we have to set the default from here in the road config or start. I think it is here, and yeah, it will by default set it here. So endpoints at, it was showing example how. So the default route is controller home action index, and I have to change it. How? Let's see. There is a map. It takes pattern. No, not this one. I think. What else there is? Map controller. So this may be it. Map controller root. And here, string name, string pattern. Add endpoints control action methods, routing, add specify route with the given name, pattern, and default. So name is the name of the route. The name of the route is product or new name. Pattern, the URL of the pattern route. I think it is details. Object defaults, let's say 32. Constraints, whatever. Okay. So let's check our product and controller, product controller. So it takes an ID as ID. So let's provide ID too. And yeah, ID is equal to ID. Okay, product doesn't. Okay, so here I have to set ID as well. Public int ID, yeah. Now it should work. And here I can set it. Yeah. If I don't provide ID, I don't know what happens. Let's see. So now when I run it, it should open the product controller by default with details action. But I'm not sure it will do it or not. Okay, so it didn't work. Road name. Oh, so this is maybe the site text. No, not that one. Let's check it out from here. Okay. Okay, so this is the way it is. So we were doing incorrectly. Endpoints map controller name default pattern controller. Okay, here product action is details, and there is ID. I think, yeah, can we set a default ID, I wonder, such as 32? Let's try it. Yeah, nice, it is working. Let's see if the ID is set as default or not from here. So here I will put a br and break ID equal to model dot ID. Why it doesn't show the ID? Probably. Okay, let's see. Product controller ID public int ID. Yeah, now it's show, now it sees. Probably it was related to IntelliSense cage of the Visual Studio. Okay. Now we can see if our default route is working or not. Yeah, I can also provide different ID, but can I provide like this? I wonder. No. So to provide a different ID, I need to provide it something like this probably. No, it is still not working. Interesting. So maybe here I have to set it like this. I wonder if this would work. So this is the pattern, but yeah, the pattern thrown error. Okay, so yeah, probably what we need to do is we have to set this default value inside our ID. So how can we do that? We can do that as, I think, like this. If it is equal to null, but integer cannot be null, but so 0, we'll set it 32, else we will set it ID. Yeah, now it should work. Okay, let's restart. Okay, so what happens? We have an error. Oh, our port is in use. Stop the application. Okay, so let's change the port of our application. I think it was somewhere here. Okay, yeah, here the port. Let's make it something like this. We didn't save it probably. Let's retry. Okay, I have saved it and restarted. IES Express has a problem. Okay, it says it is being used by the Chrome. Let's try something like this. And retry. Okay, now it's working. You see the port of the local host has changed. Okay, ID has arrived by default. Can we set now some different ID? Yes, now it is working. Okay. Okay, let's continue. Okay.
Thanks to the fact that you specify a strong type as the model of the view, you will get help accessing members of the object through IntelliSense, and your code will be validated during the build process to make sure that you only use properties, methods found on the model object.
Okay, then there is dynamic views.
If you don't declare a model type for your view, using the @model directive, the view will not expect any model of a specific type to be passed into it, but that doesn't prevent you from actually doing just that and even using the object. This is often referred to as a dynamic view, and is not used very often, because you lose out on the benefits of IntelliSense support and compile time check of the properties.
Okay, so this is also possible, however, it is not suggested. So let's make an example of this. Okay, so I will show you an example of this case, but it is not suggested. Let's add a view here and let's call the action name as dynamic. So it will come here with dynamic, and I will add another model. It is just a class actually, nothing else. A regular class that we know from C#. And let's name it as dynamic. Okay, inside this dynamic view, I will add name, and it will be an integer. And let's set a default value for it, something like this. Okay. By the way, it is not a good name, so I will name it as rank. So inside this dynamic CSHTML, I will print it with model.rank. Okay. Okay, now it should be printed. It will now expect a model that has a rank parameter. Okay. And I think I can even turn that into a, I can even format it, but yeah, let's just format it. So let me show you h1, and the rank I will tell the parameters. So equal to model.rank to yeah, I think I have to define it at is rank to if I make it like this, yeah, now I can use toString. Okay, and like this. Or perhaps I have to use it as like this. Yeah, now working and simply here. Okay, now let's run the application. Okay, now product and dynamic. Okay, it is not working because we didn't return the dynamic view inside our method, which is here. Oh, by the way, this is dynamic CS, so under the dynamic model. Yeah, here I have to return it. We didn't write it. So public action results dynamic, and it will return. By the way, I have to first define a dynamic model. My model equal to new dynamic, and return view. The view name will be dynamic, or whatever the name I want. I have given dynamic, but let's change it so it won't be test dynamic. Confusing. And the model object, which will be here. So it will be dynamic, therefore it won't have a check at runtime or compile time. I mean, not a compile time, it will check by runtime. Currently it won't throw any error because we have used the correct name. And let's try product. Okay, dynamic. Okay, now it's working, but not working as we wanted. Yeah, I have to write it like this. Okay. Because it was just seeing that as a text. Now I am telling that it's the variable, an object that will be printed. Yes, it is working. However, this is dangerous. Why? Now let me show you why. I will add something like this, and let's say I have written like this. So what will happen? Because the variables are case sensitive in C#, we will get an error at the runtime, and we won't get a error at the compile time because this is using a dynamic model. So when the application is running, it will look for a variable named as rank, with first letter is being bigger, and since there is no such variable, it will throw a runtime error. Okay, so you see it says that Lecture 1 models dynamic does not contain a definition for rank. So you see runtime binder exception we are getting. Okay, let's add some comment here. Okay. Now you get the idea. That is why you should not use dynamic views.
So, you could take the example above and remove the @model directive in the top of the view, and it would still work. In this situation, the model property would be considered a dynamic object, where you can access properties without the compiler checking for their existence. Of course, that also means that if you try to access a non-existing property, page generation will fail during runtime, resulting in a nasty exception. Therefore, dynamic views are not used a lot.
Okay, I just shown you that. So using ViewData, ViewBag, we have seen that already, but let's see it again.
As an alternative to the strongly typed approach to passing data to a view, you can use the so-called ViewData, ViewBag containers. You can add stuff to them from the controller and then automatically be able to access the stored data in your views. It's actually quite easy, and you can accomplish almost the same things as if you had used a strongly typed model. Here's an example.
So it is so simple. Under my product controller, I will just add another action, and it will be details with data. And when I run it, by the way, I will just make simple modification. So let's say newspaper product price like this, and ViewBag dot this time let's say ID equal to like this. However, now there is a problem. Our application is expecting a model, and therefore we need to have another view to display this. I think here we have to make some changes, such as okay, I have to pause. Okay, so we will modify this code, and whether the model is provided or ViewBag is used, we will be able to do that. And how we're gonna do it is, I think we can make it like this. Okay, equal to okay, if it is null, then ViewBag dot title, else this. Yeah, it should work. Since this is a string, this should work, but I think we need to put null check here, and we are price. By the way, for price is double, therefore we need to check as 0 or not. But if it is 0, that we can't be sure. So let's do this check like this. If model equal to null, yeah, I think we can make like this. Okay, then the price or price, and this is dynamic, therefore I think I will make it double, and this is string. What else? There is ID, and the ID is integer, therefore we are ID. Okay, I think we can make it like this. And in our product controller, yeah, it will be like this, and we can make like it And by default, we can assign something like this. Yeah. Okay. And here we will use title, price. I think I can write the price as toString with format and the ID. Okay, now let's check it out. Though I am not sure about whether we can check model is null or not. So we will see. Okay, model is existing right now because it is the default. Then our new action method name is details view data. It is in product details view data. Oh, we have a problem. Why? Product has details view data. Oh, because of this, because I have to return the view name since they are not same. Okay, and ViewBag versus ViewData. Let's remember that as well. Okay. So the model, okay. Then okay, I think ViewBag is the better one. Anyway, let's run our control method product. Okay, we have an error. Okay, cannot perform runtime binding on a null reference here. Okay, so on our page, okay, it is returning index.html of product. Oh, it has returned the incorrect one. Yeah, we have to return this one because we have modified this one. We could also use ViewData. However, I think ViewBag is better one, better approach. Okay, continue. And finally, it should work. Okay, so model, yeah, null. So we can do null check. Yes, yes. And oh, we have an error because corner no. Price. Yeah, what is the problem? We didn't assign. Oh, we have used different names, therefore I have to use same name, such as this one. Or I could change the names here, but I think I will make them same name. Title, price, and ID. Yeah, now it should work. and we can remove this because we don't need it anymore. Okay. Okay, product. Yeah, it is working with default ID, and then we can provide ID like this, and it's working as well. Okay, nice. So now you get the idea. You can use model, or if model is null, you can use ViewBag. It is totally up to you how you design your application. Okay, let's read it.
The major difference here is that there's no compile time checking of these properties, and no help from the IntelliSense when writing them. In other words, you could easily misspell a property name and you wouldn't notice until you tried using the view. Therefore, you should only use the ViewData, ViewBag for very small amounts of data. However, you should remember that you are free to combine the usage of ViewData, ViewBag with a traditional, strongly typed view.
Okay, so what is the difference between ViewData and ViewBag?
You will have noticed that I have used two terms for dealing with dynamic view data, the ViewData and ViewBag properties. These actually both refer to the same thing, which is a dictionary of keys and values, the objects. However, the ViewBag is a dynamic object representation of the dictionary, allowing you to access the data as if it were properties of the ViewBag object, instead of entries in a dictionary. You are free to use both properties interchangeably, since they always refer to the same data, so for comparison, here's an example of how it would look if you used both approaches.
Okay, now we understand it. Okay.
Notice how I use the ViewData and therefore a dictionary-based approach for reading and writing the product title, while I use the object-based dot notation to access the product price. That leaves you with a few smaller difference, e.g. the ability to check for the presence of a given key, value in the ViewData collection, using the contains key method. At the end of the day, you should use the approach that you find most appealing and then stick with it for consistency.
Okay, so let's also try something else here, such as, I wonder if that would work. Okay, we back and null check having, let's say, okay, other name. Okay, let's run this with no data first, and with the data as well again. Currently, ViewBag doesn't have a object as this one. Oh, it didn't work. Why? Why it didn't work? I think we have put the question mark correct place. Like it should have been like this, yeah. Now let's try like this. Okay, so you see ViewBag have advantage. Why? Because we are able to do a key check with these ways much easily. However, with ViewData, we have to check that whether it contains that key or not, and which increases our code amount that we have to write. But we can check ViewBag fields like this easily. Okay, so this is an advantage. Okay, and next is partial views. Okay. So what is partial views?
Partial views. So far, we have only worked with complete views. Everything returned to the client exists in this view. However, there are many ways of splitting up the markup into several places, which is a good thing for several reasons, the most obvious being to reuse view markup and/or logic in multiple places.
Okay, I think I will leave the partial views the next week. So we will also remember views again. It will be like rehearsing, and okay, I think we can leave it to next week. How much time? Yeah, we are almost at 2 hours. So let's take note of what we have seen so far this week, lecture 3 context. Okay, so let's check the code we have written so far. Okay, first of all, we have seen how to define controllers and change, how to define custom controller and change the default controller. Okay, so okay, how to write a custom road path for default controller in an ASP.NET Core MVC application. Okay. Yeah, we have seen that. And what else we have seen? Okay, so okay. Let's open our codes. Okay, how to single controller, how to call okay, how to return file or different HTTP status codes, or yeah, from Viv. Okay, how to do a redirect from Viv action calls, how to pass objects to the views from controllers with model or ViewData or ViewBag approaches, how to do null check to parse model or ViewData views. Okay, and okay, how to use dynamic models in views. Okay, I think I will change views as like this, so it will be more explanative. Okay, and what is the default compiler path checking of ASP.NET Core MVC? And okay, how to do post it of HTML and laser syntax in views form post. Okay, So this is how we post with raw HTML, and this is how we post with Razor syntax. Okay, and then what else? Okay, we are steadily expanding our project, adding more features. Okay, let's check. Okay, last. Okay. We will see the partial views next week. So let's go to previews and passing data into views. Okay, dynamic views, ViewBag, view discovery, specifying view. What is view? Action results. Yeah, we have seen that as well. Actions, yeah. Okay. Okay, I think it's good. We have covered everything we have seen. Action verbs. All right, so let me upload our code to our GitHub repository. Since we have added some libraries to our project, I think it is taking a little bit more to add everything. Let's see how many megabytes it is. Yeah, oh, wow, this is so big. Why? This is really, really big. What is taking this much space? Files, models, properties, perhaps? No. Binary? Wow, binary is so big. Why? It is probably due to a framework we have added. It is huge actually. Wow. 300 megabyte. Probably each one of these is taking huge space. And here there is a release version. Okay, and yeah, it is an edit. Let's push it. I hope it will push it without any error. By the way, you don't have to push debug folder to your code management because you can regenerate it with recompile unless you have put in your debug folder items manually. So that is not a necessity. And let's see, anything else? Yeah. Um, let's open our GitHub repository to show you something. I have already told you that you can join our Discord channel and ask me any questions. So please do so. If you have any questions, any suggestions related to our course, please please do so. By the way, that invite link was weird, interesting. Probably it is one of our students who made that picture and name. Okay, probably one of the Discord admins that I did set. Yeah, probably. Yeah, John Star. His profile is, I would say, yeah, funny. Yeah, okay, after you have come into our Discord channel, you can write to our general text. You can mention me like this, and you can also take the lecture role from here. When you click it, for example, MVC is here. If you click it, you see, like this, and it will come here. Okay, I will leave the server for preventing confusion. Okay, so currently it is uploading, pushing. Oh, let's see if it uploaded. It has failed, but I wonder if it is due to, okay, our PC failed. Let's fix this error as well. Probably we need to increase some cache size. Okay, let's find some answers. Okay. Yeah, here. So this is a command that we should run. I think this will fix if that error happens again. Okay, it has failed again, I believe. Let's retry. So we have increased our post buffer. Okay, it says everything is pushed. By the way, first it compresses objects, then pushes to GitHub, and probably on the GitHub it is getting extracted, decompressed. Okay, we are waiting result from the GitHub. It's hung up. By the way, this part is not important anymore. So this was the end of the lecture. Oh, we are still uploading data, as you can see. Okay, so if you have any questions, please let me know from our Discord channel, or you can also email me. And end of lecture. Hopefully see you next week.